Hello guys, in this video we will compare jQuery to Vue.js directly with Laravel project. It's a small Laravel project where people would be able to like and dislike the post, and we did it in two ways, one with jQuery and one with Vue.js. Let's compare the code. Which one would you prefer, which one would I prefer, and why Vue.js is better or worse than jQuery. So first, how it works. When you click like, if you are logged out, then system will ask you to log in, so I will register. We're a form filler Chrome extension. And now let's get back to jQuery and let's like the post. The API call has been made, the database has saved the like, and sweet alert popped up with a message. If I dislike, then as you can see that turns to 0 and dislike is 1. And if I click dislike, it just turns out to undislike or unlike. So pretty simple, right? In Vue.js, it's absolutely the same thing, just Vue.js way. So behavior is absolutely the same. You click around, you do like or dislike or undislike. In the database, what we have is a simple table post ratings with user ID, post ID, and what is like or dislike. Now let's take a look at the code. So this is the blade file for jQuery page. It does for each of the posts, and then this is what we care about. So like and dislike links. Of course, there are multiple ways to achieve the same thing, but this is our version. So there is a class called like, and then there's active or inactive. And similar class dislike, active or inactive. And then in the same blade file at the bottom, we have section of script. It could be a separate JS file, but just for simplicity, we did it in the same blade. So we'll load jQuery, we'll load sweet alert for the messages, and then whenever like is clicked, we gather the variables, do the post request to the API, and then when it's done, we update all the variables like this, change classes to active or inactive link, and fire the sweet alert message. And if it fails, we fire sweet alert message with error. Simple or complicated? What do you think? It depends on your jQuery level, of course, and maybe it can be simplified, but not by much. More or less it's the same thing. You gather the data, you do the post request, and you parse the result in message, success or error. Now let's take a look at the Vue. Blade itself is much more simple, but that's not the point. I will get to the direct comparison a bit later. So instead of having div, we have ratings, which is a Vue.js component. You can look at it as kind of an include file ratings with parameters. So we have post ID, status, likes and dislikes count. And the actual logic for all of that is in the component ratings.vue. And there are two parts. Template, which is HTML part, with a few things from Vue.js. So on-click event, then likes count and dislikes count as a variable, and then class, which is dynamic. And the whole logic is at the bottom in script, and there is a bit more logic in Vue.js than jQuery, so you're dealing with local variables of that ratings component. So you have props, you have data, so this likes count is the same as this variable. And then when you describe that magic and attach variables to each other, the actual clicking event should look like this one. For the post, you don't have to specify any data because it's already in the variables of this component. So for example, post ID, and then you have to update those local variables like likes count from the data that comes from the API. So you update all the variables and fire the success message. And if something goes wrong, it's pretty similar to jQuery. You form the message for the error and fire the message for the error. So as you can see, the main difference is that description and definition of the variables goes to kind of a global structure of that component. And if you'd have more logic inside of that Vue.js, you would then play around not with classes of the links, but you would play around with local variables inside of that component. In terms of the amount of written code, it's pretty similar for this simple example. So it's almost like a personal preference, whether you would like less structured jQuery approach or more object-oriented or component-oriented structure like Vue.js. However, I will point out one thing where Vue.js is better. So if you look at blade file in jQuery, imagine a new developer coming to that file and trying to debug an error with jQuery. So they have that HTML code, right? And then they need to find that JavaScript code where that error is happening. From here, there's nothing you can easily see where to look for. Usually in jQuery, the code is structured in some big main.js file or something. Or even if it's structured like this one, probably there won't be a rating.js file or something like that. Of course, it depends on the developer, but there's no strict structure. From what I've seen in the past, jQuery is usually written in one big code of document ready, and then there are methods after methods after methods within the same file or in a few files. So in jQuery structure, it's harder to search for the exact thing you need to work with, especially if the code is written not by yourself. And jQuery by definition allows you to do that all in one file. And in most cases, small projects are starting within one file, and that is okay. And when the project expands, no one actually has the time to restructure the whole jQuery thing. They just continue with that one file. With Vue.js, by definition, from the beginning, you have some kind of structure. So if I see this code, I know I need to search for ratings. So I can do in PHP Storm, for example, shift, ratings, and it immediately pops up with all the logic more structured than jQuery. So I know pretty much exactly what to look for and where to look for. So for bigger projects, I think Vue.js is better because it introduces at least some kind of structure. Of course, any developer can mess it up in both jQuery or Vue.js, but still, it's more structured approach for maintaining the project in the long run, in the long term. That's actually the reason why the whole web is moving to the front-end frameworks, not necessarily Vue.js, React, or Angular. They all come with the same message that front-end code should be structured, object-oriented, and easily maintainable. And jQuery doesn't have that structure. Now, does it mean that if you work with jQuery, you have to jump on the Vue immediately or any other framework? Not necessarily. If you are okay with jQuery and you are structuring your projects in a way that you and your team understand it and can maintain it pretty easily, everything is good. Because if you jump from jQuery to Vue.js, it's a totally new thing. You would have to learn new syntax, new magic, how that thing works. And it looks easy only in the beginning, actually. If you dive deeper into Vue.js, there's quite a lot of magic where it's hard to debug which variable doesn't refresh on some event, especially if you have bigger forms with a lot of events happening on the same page. So it's not easy to jump. So if you don't have to, you may choose to stick with jQuery. Another argument to jump to Vue.js or any front-end framework would be the amount of jobs you would get with that, right? But let's go to Upwork and let's see how many jobs are there. So let's search for Vue. Just global search without any filters, without anything. 1,018 jobs. Is it a lot or not? Let's compare with other frameworks. React, 3,600. So it's more than 3 times more than Vue.js, and it's much more popular. Let's try Angular. For Angular, it's 1.7 thousand. Also a bit more popular than Vue.js. So in those 3 most popular frameworks, Vue.js is the least popular, but most popular in Laravel ecosystem, by the way. And now, let's try jQuery. As you can see, 2,000 jobs. The point of that one was to prove it to you that jQuery is doing fine. There are still projects operating on jQuery, there are still jobs for that, and you will be okay not starting any Vue.js or any framework. If you can deliver the business goals for the clients, deliver the projects, and maintain it easily in the future. And Vue.js or any other of those frameworks are for those of you who want more structure in your projects, easily maintainable code, especially within a bigger team, and then maintainability for the future. Okay, time to hear your opinion in the comments right below. Do you agree with my opinion? It's only the opinion. And what framework do you use? Do you prefer? Are you okay with jQuery, or are you jumping on the Vue.js hype? And in terms of that project I've showed you, which code do you prefer better, jQuery or Vue.js? Let's discuss. And also I have another similar video for you comparing not jQuery with Vue.js, but simple Blade with Vue.js. So loading the data without any JavaScript or with Vue.js. The video is in the corner, so check that out. Also subscribe to the channel, hit the bell button to be notified by email about new videos, which I'm shooting daily now, and see you guys in other videos.